back to Scott's Weekly Sports Day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back by myself again today. My dad's at work, and it's time for my college football predictions for week one of the college football season. College football does start tonight. Should be an excellent season of college football. This is when you know that the year is almost over with football back, so that means the year will go by much quicker now. It is time to start my predictions for week one of college football, like I said, so let's get into those right now. First game out tonight from the bounce house, 86 degrees tonight in Orlando. Rain expected tonight in the bounce house, but I don't think it'll matter. Kent State coming in to take on UCF. UCF favored by 35.5 points. The line's dropped a little bit since I last looked at it, but I still think UCF's going to win the game, but I don't think we cover the 35.5 points. So I'll take UCF at home over Kent State. Next up, Florida heading into Salt Lake City to take on Utah. 88 degrees on tonight in Salt Lake City. Tough game. I think this game could go either way, but even without their starting quarterback in this game, I think Utah finds a way to get out of here with a win. I think it'll be very, very close. But I'm going to go with Utah to find a way to get out of here, even without their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, who is hurt. Still injured with that ACL injury he got back in January. So I'm going to go with Utah to get a win, but I would not be shocked to see Florida win this game. I'm going to go with Utah at home over Florida. Next up, Elon and Wake Forest. I'm going to go with Wake. I think Wake's going to have a good season in the ACC. So I'm going to go with Wake over Elon here to start the season. Next up, NC State and UConn. I'm going to go with NC State. I think NC State's a much better team than UConn is this year. Even though UConn had a good year last year, I still think NC State's a little better, so I'll go with NC State. Next up, Nebraska and Minnesota tonight on Fox. The debut of Matt Rule at Nebraska. I'm going to go with Minnesota, though, at home. I think Minnesota's a little bit better than Nebraska. I think Matt Rule is going to turn Nebraska around, but it may not be the first year. So I'm going to go with Minnesota to get a win over Nebraska. Now into the Friday games. Michigan State, Central Michigan. I'm going to go with Michigan State. I think Michigan State's had a very good, looking for a better year than they had last year, so I'll go with Michigan State. Next up, Miami, Ohio, and Miami. Give me Miami 86 degrees tomorrow night in Hard Rock Stadium. Rain expected. I'm going to go with Miami. Louisville and Georgia Tech. I'm going to go with Louisville. I think Louisville, even without their starting quarterback, Malik Cunningham, who they've had for the last 3 or 4 seasons, who graduated, I believe. I think Louisville still has enough talent to beat Georgia Tech. Next up, Missouri State and Kansas. No line for this game. It's probably too big to write down on ESPN. I'm going to go with Kansas in this game. I think Kansas is a team that a lot of people are underestimating this year. They have one of the most high-powered offenses in the country, and they have one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, so I'm going to go with Kansas to get it done over Missouri State. Next up, Stanford and Hawaii. I'm going to go with Stanford. I think Stanford's only favored by 3.5 points, but I'll take Stanford to get the win here over Hawaii in Honolulu on Friday night. Next up, East Carolina and Michigan. Give me Big Blue. I think even without Jim Harbaugh, I think it'll be just fine. I know Harbaugh's suspended for 3 games, but I think all 3 games should be wins, so I'm going to go with Michigan at home in the Big House against East Carolina. Next up, Virginia and Tennessee. I'm going to go with Joe Milton and Tennessee. I think Josh Heupel's got another great team this year, so I'm going to go with Tennessee at home in Nissan Stadium, so they're not quite at home this weekend, but they technically are, so I'm going to go with Tennessee over Virginia. Next up, one of the most hyped up games of week one it'll be Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and Colorado going into Fort Worth to take on TCU. I will go with TCU in this game. I think Deion's going to have a little bit of a rough year here in Colorado. It's not saying that he can turn this program around. It's just not going to happen in the first year. So I'm going to go with TCU to get it done over Colorado. Next up, Arkansas State and Oklahoma. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I think Dylan Gabriel's due for a very good season. So I'm going to go with OU to get it done over Arkansas State. Next up, Utah State and Iowa. I'm going to go with Iowa. I think Iowa's still one of the best teams in the Big Ten. With Kirk Ferentz, I think he's going to do well this year, so I'm going to go with Iowa over Utah State. Next up, Ball State and Kentucky from Lexington and Kroger Field. 81 degrees on Saturday afternoon, noon on the SEC Network. I will go with Kentucky. I think Kentucky's a very good. It's going to be good this year. I just don't know how good they're going to be, so I'm going to go with Kentucky over Ball State. Next up, Fresno State and Purdue. Give me Purdue at home. I think Purdue could be one of these teams that's on upset alert this week, but I think they'll find a way to get a win. I'm going to go with Purdue over Fresno. Next up, Northern Illinois and Boston College. I'm going to go with BC. I think BC's due for a good season in the ACC potentially, so I'm going to go with Boston College to get it done at home over Northern Illinois. Next up, Western Carolina and Arkansas. I'm going to go with Arkansas. I think KJ Jefferson's supposed to be back this year, I think, so I'm going to go with Arkansas at home over Western Carolina. Next up, Ole Miss and Mercer. I'll go with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to be a good team this year. New head coach for them, I believe, this year. I can't remember his name, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss at home over Mercer. Next up, Iowa State and Northern Iowa. I'm going to go with Iowa State, one of the tougher teams to beat in the Big 12, so I'm going to go with Iowa State at home over Northern Iowa from Ames. Tough to win in Ames, so I'm going to go with Iowa State at home over Northern Iowa. Next up, Portland State and Oregon. I'm going to go with Oregon. I think Oregon is one of the best teams in the Pac-12 this year, with a very good quarterback in Bo Nix. Possibly one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12 this year. So I'm going to go with Bo Nix and Oregon to get a win over Portland State. The first Big Ten matchup of the season is it'll be number 3 Ohio State heading in to Bloomington to take on Indiana. I will go with Ohio State in this game. Ohio State favored by 30 points here, surprisingly. I'm going to go with Ohio State to get the win, but I don't know if they cover. So I'll go with Ohio State on the road against Indiana. Next up, Boise State. Going into Seattle and Husky Stadium to take on Washington. I hope Boise State wins this game so they don't have to be going with balls out next week against us when they need a win next week. I'm going to go with Washington though at home. I think it's tough to win in Husky Stadium. 75 degrees on Saturday in Seattle, so I'm going to go with Washington at home over Boise. Next up, Rice and Texas. 102 degrees, that's right, 102 in Austin on Saturday. I'm going to go with Texas. I think Texas has 2 very good quarterbacks, so I'm going to go with Texas at home over Rice. Next up, Tennessee State and Notre Dame. I'm going to go with the Irish. They looked very good last week against Navy, so I think they'll look even better this week. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame at home over Tennessee State. Next up, Wisconsin and Buffalo. I'm going to go with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's one of the best teams in the Big Ten normally, so I'm going to go with Wisconsin at home over Buffalo in Camp Randall. Next up, UMass and Auburn. I'm going to go with Auburn. I think Auburn is one of the best teams in the SEC. Will be tough to beat. Will be a rough team in the SEC this year, but I think they'll get a win here over UMass. Next up, Towson and Maryland. I'm going to go with Maryland. I think the Terps will do well enough here at home to get it done at home against Towson. Next up, Wofford and Pitt. I'm going to go with Pitt. I think the Pitt Panthers will do enough to get a win here to start off their run in the ACC. Next up, Eastern Kentucky and another new member of the Big 12 in Cincinnati. I'm going to go with Cincy. I think Cincy's looking good this year, so I'll go with Cincinnati at home over Eastern Kentucky. Next up, Southeast Louisiana and Mississippi State. Too many cowbell this week at Davis Wade. I'm going to go with Mississippi State at home. I think this game should be tough, but I'm going to go with Will Rogers and Mississippi State to get the win here at home over Southeast Louisiana. Next up, Cal and North Texas. I'm going to go with Cal. I think, even though it's on the road, I think Cal will find a way to get a win on the road against North Texas. Next up, Syracuse and Colgate. Give me the orange at home. I think Syracuse is going to find a way to get a win here over Colgate. Next up, UT Martin and Georgia, the number 1 team in the nation. Georgia Bulldog fans are not happy that they need ESPN Plus to watch their team play this week. I'm going to go with Georgia to get a win here at home, big over UT Martin. I think this game should not even be close. I'm going to go with Georgia to get a big win here over UT Martin. And next up, it'll be Nevada and USC. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams in USC. Hopefully he plays a little bit more than he did last week. He played about a half last week. USC favored by 38 points. I'll go with USC and Caleb Williams to get a win here at home over Nevada. Next up, Southeast Missouri State taking on K-State. K-State losing Deuce Vaughn does hurt them, but I think Adrian Martinez will do enough this week. I'm going to go with Kansas State to get a win here over Southeast Missouri State. Next up, New Mexico and Texas A&M. 100 degrees in College Station this week at Cal Field. I will go with Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M to get off to a better start this year than what they had last year. So I'm going to go with Texas A&M at home over New Mexico. Next up, Alabama A&M and Vandy. 86 degrees in Nashville. I'm going to go with Vandy to get a win. I think Vandy will struggle this year, but they're already 1-0, so they'll be a quarter of the way home after a win this week over Alabama A&M to get into a bowl game. Next up, Wazoo and Colorado State. I'm going to go with Wazoo. I think Washington State finds a way to get a win here over Colorado State. Next up, Texas State and Baylor. 101 in Waco this weekend in McLean. I'm going to go with Baylor. I think Baylor's going to be a good team this year for Matt Campbell, but we'll see. Not that. Dave Aranda is the head coach of Baylor, I believe. Next up, UTSA and Houston. My upset pick of the week. UTSA goes into Houston and upsets Houston. And UTSA favored by Deuce. I'll go with UTSA on the road to get it done over Houston. Next up, Central Arkansas and Oklahoma State. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. I think tough to win in Stillwater at the beginning of the season, so I'm going to go with Oklahoma State at home over Central Arkansas. Next up, Alabama and Middle Tennessee. Alabama favored by 39 points, even though Nick Saban is not announced who he wants to start as starting quarterback. So I'm going to go with Alabama at home over Middle Tennessee here at Bryant-Denny. Next up, West Virginia and Penn State. I will go with Penn State at home, even though I'm pulling for West Virginia as a new member of the Big 12. I'm hoping all the Big 12 teams do well, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm going to go with Penn State here at home over West Virginia. Next up, Texas Tech and Wyoming. I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I think they're going to be one of the sleepers to do very well in the Big 12 this year. So I'll go with Texas Tech on the road against Wyoming. Next up, Old Dominion and Virginia Tech. I'm going to go with Va-Tech. I think Virginia Tech's going to do well enough this week to get a win over Old Dominion. Next up, Northern Arizona and Arizona. I'm going to go with Arizona here. Should be a win here at home in Tucson this week for Arizona. Next up, Sam Houston State and BYU. BYU, another new member of the Big 12. I will go with BYU at home. I think 73 degrees expected in Provo this weekend. I'm going to go with BYU at home over Sam Houston State. Next up, Coastal Carolina and UCLA. I'll go with UCLA to get a win here over Coastal Carolina. But that should be a good game. Coastal Carolina, normally a very good team. Next up, Northwestern and Rutgers. I will go with Rutgers to get a win here at home. Two very bad teams in the Big Ten, but I'm going to go with Rutgers to get a win here at home over Northwestern. Next up, Oregon State and San Jose State. I'm going to go with Oregon State to get a win here on the road against San Jose State. One of the favorites to do very well in the Big Ten this year in the Pac-12 for Oregon State. Next up, and probably the game of the weekend, is it'll be number 5 LSU heading in to Camping World Stadium to take on number 8 ranked Florida State. 88 degrees here in Orlando on Sunday night. Just because they're at home, I'm going to go with Jordan Travis and Florida State to get a win here. I think just because they have a home field advantage here in Orlando, I'm going to go with Florida State to get a win here at home over LSU. Second to last game, Clemson and Duke. I'm going to go with Clemson. I think Clemson is going to get a win and start off their run in the ACC with a win here at home over Duke on the road in Durham to start off the run in the ACC. And now the College Game Day game of the week. College Game Day will be there on Saturday morning, as it'll be the Duke's Mayo Classic, as it'll be from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, as it'll be number 21 ranked North Carolina heading in to take on South Carolina. I'm going to go with Drake May and North Carolina to get a win here to start off their run in the ACC this season. So I'm going to go with North Carolina to get a win here over South Carolina. Should be a good one. And then the final game of the weekend, I will be picking William and Mary and Campbell. Should be a great game. 75 degrees in North Carolina this weekend. I'm going to go with William and Mary. I think the Tribe are going to look good again this year. They made the playoff last year, so I'm going to go with the Tribe at home on the road here over Campbell. And that will do it for this episode of Scott's Week in Sports. I will be back next week with some college football and NFL predictions. I finally get some NFL predictions in next week. I'm sorry for my whimpering dog in the background today, but I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott's Week in Sports. See you later, guys.